we all already know that in Indian politics there was an era when student politics was quite active. I would like to take a reference to Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan, the famous politician, and his total revolution movement. We also talk about criminalization, and we must agree that recent election verdict that came from Uttar Pradesh definitely shows that verdict and youth's mandate could be decisive. We need to see that there are certain niche areas where youth participation is much more than the others. For instance, environment and gender. There are certain issues in our public lives today, such as data privacy, ecology, abortions, where the students from STEM backgrounds can contribute better to the discourse, overall discourse, and in turn, ultimately, that will help in better policies as well. First of all, I won't go into the nitty-gritty of this term political awareness. I'll keep it simple for my discussion. Something that helps us make better informed political decisions is political awareness. And we do not need to emphasize its importance because we all already know that in Indian politics, there was an era when student politics was quite active. I would like to take a reference to Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan, the famous politician, and his total revolution movement. Many of politicians that we see today, especially in the north, UP and Bihar states, are an offshoot of that movement. But most of you would agree with me that recently student politics has taken a backseat, and there are many reasons for it. But India, being one of the youngest democracies in the world, definitely needs youth representation everywhere in every sphere of politics because youth can do much more better informed voting. We, as a youth today, have more access to information than anybody else. We have smartphones in our hands. We have internet. We can do a lot of research. We can do fact checking, and we can also browse a lot of news content that can help us make better informed decisions. And we often talk about gender issues in our politics. For instance, even today in this Lok Sabha, we have around 13% point something percent women making it to the Lok Sabha. And although we are definitely discussing providing 33% reservation to the women, but we are not sure that will that really help them women come to the forefront because especially in states like UP and Bihar, there is a concept of Sarpanch Pati in which in the local institutions, municipalities, we provide 33% reservation, but the woman is just a face, where all the political business is handled by her husband or the male relative in her household. So that is the concept. It's a political concept, Sarpanch Pati. So if youth is much more empowered in any sense to participate in the political affairs, I think these issues could be definitely dealt. And we also talk about criminalization. And we must agree that election verdict that came from Uttar Pradesh definitely shows that uh, verdict and youth's mandate could be decisive. So nobody can ignore the youth. And that's when, if youth can come along and be a part of this political process in a better way, I surely believe that criminalization in politics can also be dealt with. And as the enrollment ratios in India are rising and literacy in political education is also rising, and as Professor John Verghese has highlighted that there is definitely, we need to differentiate between education and literacy. We need to see that there are certain niche areas where youth participation is much more than the others. For instance, environment and gender. We see people like Greta Thunberg, forest protests, and even Pride March, where the youth comes in big numbers and participates in the political processes. But let's say there are other issues of taxation, fiscal policy, where we do not see youth that much. So we also need to, as Professor Ram Kumar highlighted, the interdisciplinary need and extracurricular activities among students to provide them with better education and holistic view so that different students from different streams can come together, and together they can also contribute to different issues, not just few specific domains. And if we talk about corporate employability as well, these days we are discussing issues like DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, Whereas we have seen that corporate places are witnessing a change in demography, and which is leading to issues of inclusivity and diversity training is required. So colleges can provide this through engagement, civic engagements with NGOs and social work, so that the graduates that they are producing are much more sensitive to the uh, needs of everybody around them. And this political participation is also going to help not just at the institutional level, that is college, university, or something. It is going to translate into state, national, and even international levels. So overall, India as a whole is going to benefit when the youth is empowered. But that brings us to the crucial issue: that what are the barriers? And I have some data to cite. Uh, this is a report from University of Georgia, USA. NSLV reports that the turnout in 2016 presidential election in the United States, there were around 62.8% of student voters who are from public administration and social service professions. But students studying computer and information sciences turned out only at around 31.1%. So this is just one data. I won't over rely on it, but still I'll make one conclusion that STEM courses students generally shy away from political activities, whereas social science and law graduates are generally more inclined towards it. But this is a big concern because there are certain issues in our public lives today, such as data privacy, ecology, abortions, where the students from STEM backgrounds can contribute better to the discourse, overall discourse, and in turn, ultimately that will help in better policies as well. And we use labels like Gen Zs, millennials in marketing, etc. But when we talk about politics, we just use the term youth. We do not dissect it pretty much. But as Yogendra Yadav has said that this there is a need to dissect the youth, because when we talk about youth, a sense that comes to mind is that youth is somebody in Delhi, urban, educated. But that's not the case. When we say India is the largest pool of youth, we have to understand that many of our youth are coming from rural and subaltern backgrounds, and they have to be included in our discourse. So the term youth itself has to be more democratic. These days, we have also seen that social media is a big background, big platform for information and also for misinformation. It's a double-edged sword. It can help the youth in participating in a better way and contributing in a better way to society, and at the same time it can also harm all those ideals, because if misinformation is not curbed, and that is going to lead to a very different situation. That's why we need legal regulations to counter misinformation. And here comes the role of colleges. Colleges can curb misinformation in a very good way by promoting research culture. In India, we have seen that research is generally provided to students at PhD levels and not at master's and undergraduate levels. But that is changing. But even in that, only the elite universities are changing it. But if we provide more research opportunities to the students, they are going to develop research skills, which means data authenticity, curbing of fake news, non less manipulation, and all these are going to be, ending up in youth being more informed, more educated. And as Professor Varghese said, that there is a difference between literacy and education. So a, a youth that is exposed to the research culture is not just literate but also much better educated. And commercialization of education also plays a big role. It's a big barrier, because when the education fees is higher, students run into a rat race. There is a hectic schedule, loan burdens, and quest for packages, especially in the STEM courses. And this toxic cult of success pushes people out of serious political thought. They develop a sort of apathy towards the political processes, and that affects everybody else. And we must realize that all this is also a result of policies, because today in India, if few people are competing for, many people are competing for too fewer opportunities, it's also a result of policies. So, and lack of social security, as Professor Ram Kumar said, that if we could have some better incentives to the politicians, that could definitely play a big vital role. In India, fewer opportunities outside job roles force students to lead a life of less independence. Red tapeism also leads to various challenges in developing self-employment, social service, NGOs, and a sort of social entrepreneurship culture that many youth would like to do, but they cannot do because of the red tape. And of course, the corruption, money power, muscle power, they also play a big role in being a barrier. So they frustrate the willing candidates who want to join such streams. And one issue that I would like to touch is, I'm sure most of you would forgive me for my audacity, is intoxication. We must agree that colleges are also hub of such activities, and intoxication prevents all sort of awareness, let alone the political awareness, and it breaches the human resource that we have in our country. So we need colleges and universities to curb this intoxication culture. We need a dedicated committee, something on the lines of Vishaka guidelines that we have, to to provide counseling and to prevent such activities, so that youth is more healthy, and that it is a better human resource and participate more actively in such activities. And
Uh,
other thing that colleges can do is they can do.
Akash, could you summarize? Your time is
Definitely,
almost.
I'm just. So what colleges can do is they can launch model United Nations mock parliaments and engage with NGOs for civil society engagements that will help in development of soft skills also, which will lead to better employment at corporates, and it will lead to many of the students being more proactive in the political process of our country. Thanks a lot.
Okay.